Emotionally unavailable.
Welcome to Emotionally Unavailable, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of emotional availability and intimacy. I'm your host, Melissa Hepner, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have you join me on this journey of self-discovery and connection. Whether you're navigating the complexities of relationships or exploring your own emotional landscape, this podcast is here to inspire, empower, and entertain. So get cozy and let's explore the depths of human emotions together. Hi guys, happy Monday. Today's guest is Erica Taylor Beck. Her company name is Authentic Foundations, and she is a leadership coach for managers and helps transform managers into the leaders they wish they had. She's also very fucking cool. She shared some recipes with me. She's spiritual like us. You know, she's just super cool. I really like her. And I just don't think it's a coincidence that I recorded with her on like a day that means a lot to me, which was Valentine's Day. So I don't know. We're little homies now. You know, she probably doesn't know that we're little bestie boos, but you know we really are. So, and if you didn't see it, I got to be on her podcast, Stumbling Forward. So I'll make sure I link that to the episode. You know, just words are hard right now. I'm very tired. So anyway, I'll link that in the show notes. Erica, please forgive me for not giving you a better intro. Yeah, because I really didn't even edit too much because I've had kind of a crazy week. Actually, the last month has been pretty insane. So, yeah. So hopefully there's nothing there that I wish I hadn't cut out, but I am really excited for you guys to hear this conversation because like you're used to hearing, it's a real connection, just sharing ourselves with each other, and I'm really grateful for it. And I'm grateful for you, Erica, grateful for the recipes, grateful for the connection. I'm really excited to connect and collaborate more. And I know that we are a dynamic duo. So anyway, here is me and Erica.
Emotionally unavailable.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. One of my dogs is being dumb in my room, so we may have to figure it out in a minute.
I just had to get all four of mine wrangled in here because it's like that time of day where people deliver packages and they're like, I'm like, shut up, I'm about to record.
Yes. Well, I didn't even realize she was in here until I got everything plugged in, sat down, and I hear this little, and I was like, oh my God, why do you do this to me every day? Every day. So she's on my nerves, but she's trying to sleep, I guess. So
All right.
okay, I saw that you are a leadership coach for managers and you transform managers into the leaders that they wish they had.
Yes.
Okay. I'm excited to hear about that because, well, I have to tell you this because I've had some real shit managers. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I'm now self-employed. My husband's self-employed, and I talk to him all the time. He's the sweetest dude ever, but because he's so sweet, he attracts and magnetizes people who can kind of abuse that.
Yes.
And I'm like, I've been preaching you got to change the culture of your business, blah blah blah, and I just think about how many times I have felt like if we could all just get our shit together, that would be so great because I've primarily worked in women-dominated fields.
Oh, nice.
And I'm not afraid to say that unhealed women are not cute. And we can make things a lot more difficult than they need to be. And also the truth is we're programmed to socialize by talking shit and complaining. That's the messaging we receive as children, and we carry that on into adulthood until we learn better. And that's what I've been surrounded by. Don't play. I perpetuated that shit too. I was a shit talker. I was a complainer.
Oh, for sure.
All the things. I really was. I mean, I was probably a ringleader in some of that shit, but I'd be the first to form a coup against a manager. Don't play. I feel like friends,
listen, this ain't the vibe. She didn't pass the vibe check. But
Yes.
yeah, so what do you feel like is like the number one thing that from a managerial perspective is so tough about creating a good climate in your workplace?
Honestly, I think a lot of it is just it's perpetuated from what used to be. Like this is how it's always been. Excuse me. So this is just how we keep doing it, and in a
Yes.
lot of support for a more balanced approach. And I think we're starting to see it a little bit more now. And I'm seeing it a lot because I feel like I connect with a lot of folks who are in that same mindset. But it's still, when you look at the bigger picture, I'm like, oh, this is not popular yet. Like people still want that command and control. Like I'm telling you to do this, get this shit done, versus being
Yes.
emotionally intelligent and saying like, hey, look, I realize I'm a little triggered by this. And so I'm lashing out. And therefore now you are being defensive and we're not hearing each other. And
Absolutely.
you've never really accepted that that's okay to do. And so I'm
Yes.
like, yep,
Some of what I've been doing
leadership.
really is like helping people understand that if you can heal yourself, everyone around you changes. So,
Mm-hmm.
like at home, when I got better, the entire environment got better. And I know if I was in a workplace, like I was the rallier, you know what I mean? So like if I was a healthier version, granted, I this last 7 years I worked in education, probably not a lot more I could have done. I was pretty positive for the most part until
Yeah.
like the last year when I was in a mental health crisis. But if this version of me went into a workplace like that, I know what that energy would look like. But then the problem is when you have this emotionally unavailable boss
Yep.
who can't step beyond that. But what you said about this is the way it's always been done. Do you feel like, I don't know why, but this just popped in my head when you said that phrase, because I hate that phrase. That's
Oh
when
yeah.
people say that, I'm always like, what the fuck? Like, and and okay, so that means you can't ever change. Is that really how you view? Do you think that the people who stay stuck in that philosophy are experiencing some sort of imposter syndrome? Do you think that they just have a struggle, like grow like, well, I may not be received if I put actual energy into changing this workplace culture. You know what I'm
Possibly.
saying?
Yeah, possibly. I think a lot of it is there's a little bit of a fear of being vulnerable and open and sharing those emotions because it's not something that they've seen uh, done before. So it's not something that they have a lot of experience witnessing. But I think a lot of it too is just I've gotten this far without it. So why change now? Like this has worked for me and this is what I've seen my manager do. And I've been in a lot of more male dominated fields. And so that's something where the male, not all of them. I've had some that were really great and very, supportive and open, but a lot of it's just get this done. Like this is just how we do it. We don't talk about our feelings ever outside of work, inside of work. So just
Right.
come to
That's
work, do
so
your job,
true.
and then go home. And it's like, no, no, no. It all bleeds together, especially if you're doing a hybrid environment, because now my home is my job and my job is my home. And I can't just
Mhm.
turn it off. So being able to accept that. So I think some imposter syndrome is there and a fear of vulnerability, but I think too it's never been modeled for me, so I don't really know how to do it. And I don't want to be the first one to do it because then I'm going to look crazy. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, he's having a mental breakdown over there." And it's like, "Oh no, I'm just sharing feelings." And they're like, "Well,
Yeah.
what? What?" So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
No,
it's
the
a little
mental
bit of that.
breakdown was when he slammed the door and you could hear things crashing behind the door. This is appropriate sharing. Okay. I know you don't get that. I know. It's okay. Do
Yes.
you work like in this position, do you work with just women or both?
Both. I'm
Both.
open to
Okay.
anything, and I target more of like new managers, because couple reasons. One, I think it's really important since like 85% of managers don't get trained when they become promoted. They're just winging it. And so I really want to focus on helping them build a foundation that they can work on. So here are the fundamental skills as a leader that you need, but also here's emotional intelligence and how you can deal with your people. But two, the reason I focus on this group is because if I said I'm going to start working with like middle managers and more senior, they've been doing this for some odd years. They're not necessarily as open or as receptive to the fact that they might need this. And so I target newer managers, but really this is for any gender manager in any level. But I feel like the younger, newer ones are a little bit more receptive to the need.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could see that. And even I hate to say this, but even men. Just because like, okay, so when I talk to my husband all the time about he has a business partner that he started this business with, I don't even remember how long ago. 15 years, maybe 14, who knows?
Nice.
And I'm not afraid to say real emotionally unintelligent that business partner is. And so I'm always like, I know that it's hard to get him on board, but like if you guys could pull, I was like, I know it's not going to be me, but like if you could pull somebody in to give you some grounding in this idea that like we do need to understand our employees on this emotional level. And even like my husband's better about understanding energetic cycles than his partner is. Like he's like, I don't fucking need you to be here at 6 a.m. Like if you can do this job in these hours, like yes, it's more helpful in terms of access to items in this office and blah blah blah.
Right.
But like he's pretty okay because he's a night owl. So he gets
Yes.
that like not everybody functions their best in the morning. And also the morality that we as humans kind of assign to the night owl profile. You know, like if you stay up till 3 in the morning and sleep till noon, you're a piece of shit. And I'll be honest, when I was going through kind of a transformation years ago, just trying to kind of get my shit together as a human, like let's adult for real. I was a mom and everything, and I was just like kind of starting from scratch because I had been through a divorce and went through the divorce crazies. And I was like, okay, what do we need to do? And I kind of started looking around, and I was like, all right, I gotta go to bed on time and not be up and blah, 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 because not a lack of sleep was really ruining my life. But I got so fucking judgmental in that. You know what I mean? Like, just like, I would never. Bitch, I did it 2 months ago, but now I'm not going to. But then like over the last couple of years, I had to unravel, like, it feels a little unpredictable and scary because like I had parents that did this. And then like I have brothers who did this who aren't like all that reliable, and it makes me feel unsafe if you aren't a certain way. So I had to figure that out for myself, but I did realize I assigned a lot of morality and emotion to something that did not require that. But I think as managers, that's happening too. Granted, if you have a set schedule, you have a set schedule, but would it be crazy to allow more people to work within their natural rhythm,
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. But the morality piece, I think that there's that old little poem or whatever, like early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, wise, I think it is.
Uh-huh.
And so, but that is something that's been kind of ingrained. Like you go to bed early, you get up early, especially if you want to be a 7-figure, 8-figure leader. Like
You gotta have
get
2
up,
full-time jobs. That one in those 3 hours where nobody else is awake.
right, get up at like 4 a.m. You go to the gym, you do, and so all of this stuff. And I think
Yes.
that's something that is kind of like beat into us to think about. But I agree, like, and it's known, like you have your kind of your peak cycles throughout the day of like when's your zone of genius, and maybe mine's like 3 in the afternoon, or maybe mine's 9 o'clock at night, and that's when I'm doing my best work. And so there are limitations obviously with jobs, because sometimes if you're
True.
needing to be customer facing, it's during a certain window. But if you have a more flexible job, yeah, I think it's great. That's something that people are kind of asking and demanding now, is that more flexibility for that work-life balance to, hey, look, as long as I'm getting my stuff done and I'm meeting all my deliverables and all my deadlines, can I work these odd hours that work for me so that I can be present for my kids? Or because I'm not really
Yes.
awake in the morning, like I'm not going to bring my A game until until 2 o'clock. So can I just start working my?
Right.
And I think it's okay if the job require
Right.
allows,
There are
depending on
caveats
what
to
it is.
everything that you discuss. But yes,
Right.
absolutely. And even work from home versus being present in the office. That's been a really
Yes.
big shift. I'm not getting into the trauma that's coming up from the present debate around this, but
Yes.
I will say this. I remember during COVID, so I still do very part-time work for the hospice that I joined in 2013. I do bereavement work, but phone calls
Nice.
from home. I print some stuff too, and I do that at the office, but that's like very little, right? But I remember during the height of COVID, when everybody was kind of working from home, that was the first time our top boss lady was willing to even accept the notion that you could be not just as productive, but even more productive in an at-home environment. Like
Yes.
I can now because I've learned I'm doing it. So like I've learned how, how to not be distracted by the things around me and stuff. But like my direct supervisor, she was always someone who worked more productively at home because like her husband wasn't bothering her at home. There weren't small kids, whatever. And in the work environment, people are constantly interrupting you when you're the boss.
Yes.
You know what I
There's
mean?
a lot of drive-bys and just, hey,
Yeah,
do you have a minute? Do you have a
nonstop.
minute? Do you have a minute? And it's like,
Yes, or even just to say hi, because the nature of our business is that we didn't see each other all that much. So when you
yeah,
come in, you want those connections. And so thinking now, I don't know how the hell she got anything done because her office was right in the place that everybody could stop by. I know I did. And I have never thought about things like that until like working from home. But our higher up supervisor just couldn't get down with the idea that like, yeah, you
yes.
might actually do better at home. And she is a wonderful like leader and does wonderful work outside of her house. But I do think it's kind of a generational shift, you know?
Yes. And I think there's some stuff too. I think when they are renting a space, like they're paying for this location and they want people like butts in seats because I'm paying for a location for my people to come in and they're all staying home. Why am I spending this money?
Right. No,
But
that's
and
true.
just say that. Like that's my thing. Don't say it's for the culture. We're doing this. We want you to have the
Yes.
culture because sometimes
No, because you're
they're
making me
going in.
resentful. So that's
Right.
your culture
Now I'm
right there.
coming in and I'm bitter. Like, no one wants to be my friend because I'm a bitter bitch in the corner who has to come in and put real pants on. Like, but if I'm home, and wants to do a Zoom call, great. I'm wearing shorts, like come
Right.
on in and talk
Or
to me.
let us wear sweats to the office.
Yes. Yes. I'm gonna start snapping my fingers like yes, all the things. It's just there's some stuff there where it is very outdated. Now, if you have customers coming in, of course you want to
Yes,
look your best. But if it's
obviously
just
we
a
want them to
regular
look
day,
professional.
if you can, as long as it's not inappropriate where like body parts are hanging out that shouldn't be hanging out, come in, be comfortable because I tend to work more comfortably when I'm comfortable and I
Oh,
get more
hell
stuff
yeah.
done. I
Let me
don't want
tell
to
you,
put
this
on a real
tank
bra
top
and real
is
pants.
my
Like what?
fucking uniform. I mean, I wear a tank top in this house and it's cold as fuck here right now. But like, I'll just throw a coat on if I have to leave the house. But this is what's comfortable, and I can't be restricted. I have to use so much energy, like to have conversations, but also if I'm
Yes.
creating something, there's a lot of tension and frustration at first, and I just can't be having my damn bra cut in because I got to wear the good one.
Yes.
You know?
Underwire. Yes. I'm like, I just want to wear a sports bra. I think I've worn an underwire bra maybe like 5 times in the last like 2 years. And I
Oh
think
God,
they
it's
were
getting
all
bad when I
5
try
really sad
to.
days.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, if I had to go and like I think about that all the time. I mean, that's one of the things. I had to decide like straight up, I'm in a place where I can't have a boss. I don't know if it's all my astrological placements or what the fuck, but I have no respect for authority at 45 almost. So like I'm like, no. I mean, to be fair, I have a boss through my little hospice thing, but she also knows
Right.
like I'm gonna do what I want. And that's just how I am. So I can't do it. But I try to imagine like if I actually had to put real fucking pants on, dude. I'm wearing
Mhm.
pajama pants right now, and I will until I have to go pick up my children. Like I can't do
I would
it.
still wear the pajama pants to pick up the kids. Like who am I trying to impress?
Yeah, well, that's kind of the time of day where so like I'll change my shirt like whenever I get ready, and then I'll change my pants. Like then I'm ready for the day at like 3 p.m. And then a lot of times I come home and I'm like, well, I don't really have anything else to do. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put those pants back on. But the
Yep.
point is, Erica, that I want to be comfortable. And I
Yes.
am not productive when I am not comfortable.
No, because I can't settle in and I feel restricted and like now I'm focusing more on my body and less on what I'm trying to do. Yeah, like I just want to be comfy and happy. I think I'm wearing basketball shorts. I don't even know what I'm wearing right now. I
Oh,
think
are
I'm wearing
you?
basketball shorts
Okay,
on the
I love
bottom.
that for you.
I'm like somewhat businessy on top. Like I have on real clothes on top, but I'm wearing shorts on the bottom because you can't see them and that's okay.
Oh my gosh. You know what's funny is uh, uh I just joined Podmatch so
Oh,
that I a friend referred, gave me the affiliate link, and I was like, okay, it's actually a really cool thing. It's only like $6 a month if you want to join. But um a couple of people already messaged to have me on their show, and they're like, yeah, one of them is a live recording. They're like, yeah, be show ready, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no. Are you telling me you don't like tank tops? Because you're probably not going to like me, and I'm not going to try to impress you with what I wear. So hopefully they like tank tops.
Like if I can't dazzle you with my amazing personality, my clothes are not going to win you over.
Thank you. And you know what? I am dazzling. So
Yes.
hopefully they think that too. But I was like, oh fuck, another way. Like, oh, I don't want to do anything to ever try to impress anyone ever. So I'm not doing that. I'm gonna wear whatever the hell I want. So we'll find out. We'll find out if that's well received or not.
They're like, oh, sorry, we have to reschedule indefinitely.
My God, could you imagine?
I'll be like, really? Because of a tank top?
For real. Is it the fuck off tattoo? I don't know. See, again, like I kind of forget that's there, and because like it's like right under my arm, and I could not like be in a place, a workspace where like I have to hide that because I don't remember it's there. You know what I
Right.
mean?
It's part of your body now. Like it's just there.
Yes.
That's
Although I did
hilarious.
still work in education whenever I got it, but the kids didn't notice. They didn't notice. I'm sure they didn't. And it's written in cursive, so that's how you get
Yeah,
around
they couldn't
kids
read
these
it.
days.
Yeah.
They can't read cursive. We used to write each other notes in really sloppy cursive because we knew if we, had a kid take it for us, then they were gonna like try to read it.
Yeah.
They'd be like, I couldn't. It was cursive. I'm like, yeah, I know that's this generation too. But yeah, okay. So, what do you feel like? What are the people like the managers saying that they're barriers to a good workplace are?
The managers, I mean, honestly, the managers usually are speaking about their managers because it's like I said, it's kind of systemic. It's just happening. And so they are going in and not feeling like they are being seen or heard or respected. And they
Yeah.
feel like they have to do things a certain way or that they're being micromanaged. And so that's kind of what they learn is how to do it. And sometimes you learn what not to do and then you do the opposite when you're in charge. But sometimes they
Mhm.
just, this is what I've seen happen. So I'm going to try to do that myself and hope it works out. And there's a lot of trial and error, but that just creates more and more and more negative experiences. Because if I'm like, let me just wing this, I'm going to give you some feedback. I'm going to wing it based on what has happened with me, and it's total disaster. And then
Yeah.
I've just like ruined your day and crushed your spirit. And I'm like, well, that didn't go so well. So the next time I have to give feedback, I'll try it a little different. And you just keep trial and error until you maybe get it right. But in the process, how many people have you burned a bridge with? And so I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is just you don't know what you don't know until it comes up. And then you're like, oh my gosh,
Mm.
I have to figure this out on the fly. And I don't want to ask for help from my manager because then they're going to think that I'm incompetent or that I didn't deserve this promotion. And so I'm going to
Mhm.
go to the internet and try to look something up, or I'm just going to wing it and hope for the best. And then even if you look it up, like you still have to practice it a little bit. You just can't go in and giving hard feedback is hard. And so
Oh, you're so
people
right.
cry and they get upset, and like you have to be able to give the feedback and respond to the emotion effectively and
Yes.
set expectations. And there's just a lot. And if you're going really fast in your brain, you're like, I'm just trying to get through it and I'm going to talk really fast. And okay, you picked it all up,
Yes.
and then I'm sorry that you're crying, but good luck and go back to your day and
Yes,
keep up
sorry
the good
about
work.
that. And do you know who used to cry really hard at that type of feedback?
Was it you?
Me. I was the fucking worst. I would become a basket case. And in my career, I got better at it. But like, let's say when I was younger and, just whatever job I was in, if I got constructive criticism, actually, this is something I've talked about, I think, on this show, but a lot in life, especially with my boys, is the first time I got in trouble, okay, but really just received some feedback that wasn't positive, okay,
Right.
that was it for me. It created paranoia. Like, I just was like, every time I would quit so soon after because every time I walked into that
Oh
workplace,
man.
all I could think is, they hate me.
Yeah.
Which they didn't hate me. Like,
No.
they liked me, but they had to give me feedback. I was kind of a piece of shit employee. I mean, that's the truth. I was fucking just no schedule in life, no whatever. I was young, extensive history of trauma. I had no like
Yeah.
real I had social skills and that I could be social, but I was kind of inappropriate. There were just so many things to give me feedback on. And if I could have had somebody to kind of walk me through that, like if they had known what wounding they were hitting so deeply when they were giving that feedback. They could have walked me through it to kind of like, hey, I fucking like you so much. Like, this has nothing to do with how I feel. It's just, this is a company standard. And
Yes.
so we just want to make sure it's being met. That's what I'm trying to like teach my husband about his employees too. He doesn't need as much, but even just understand who you're talking to when you're saying. He's very kind, but understand which
Yeah.
triggers are coming up because if you're unhealed the way I was, everything's a trigger. And
Yeah.
so like
Yeah.
any kind of feedback that's not just absolute praise, it fucking wrecks you.
Yeah, it does. And that's a really good point. And I think that's something that I want to drive home for folks too, not necessarily in my business, but just in general, because I also do some podcasts on the side. But being healed and doing that self-reflection to figure out, like, why is this such a trigger? Why am I so upset by this? Like, and a lot
Yeah.
of it is I have to earn praise. I have to earn my validation. And you're telling me I'm not
That's the
doing
only way
that.
I'm
And so
worthy
now
of
you
love
must
and
hate me
belonging.
and think I'm terrible.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh, no, no. Like you said, and a lot of times, I try to say, and I know it's hard to hear and receive this, but like feedback is a gift, even constructive feedback,
Yeah.
because I care enough about you that I want you to do well in your job. So I want you to improve in these areas. But that's also why it's so important to really understand your employees before those situations so that you're like, okay, I'm going to go in and meet with Melissa. And I know that she's going to take this very personally. So I have to make sure that I do this. Or like, I'm going to go in and meet with Bob. And Bob doesn't really give a shit. So about,
Yeah.
he's very not emotional.
Bob's
So I'm
lost
going to be
all
able to
the
give
fuck.
him very
Yep.
direct and just, here's how it is, Bob. Let's make
Mhm.
this and better. Bob's like, all right, it's a good point. You're right. Let's do this. And so just if you know your people, because you are being open and connected and emotionally intelligent, and they feel like they can trust you, then you feel like you can cry in that meeting and say, look, I it's not about the feedback. This is hard for me to hear because I'm a perfectionist and I want to do well.
Yes.
And you're like,
This is
okay, I
hitting
get
all of
that.
my perfectionism. Yes.
Yes.
Of
And
all
so
the
to say,
things
like,
that
I
ever made
see
me feel
you.
not good enough.
And you're like,
Yes.
but you are doing a great job. This is something though that we just really need to work on because this one thing is getting in the way of these other really great things that you're doing. And so
Mhm.
it's not trying to sandwich it where you're like, here's something bad, here's something really great. It's just here's what needs to be improved because you're doing a good job. I don't want this one thing to derail you. And I'm
Right.
trying to be very honest with you about that because I do want to see you succeed and develop. So I don't really give a shit about you and I don't want you to do well. Like, hopefully you don't have managers like this, but they're not going to take the time to give that feedback because they really just don't care. And they're like, look, at some point we're going to fire you. And so I'm just
Right.
waiting until
Right.
I can. And so hopefully that people want to give that feedback to say, I don't want to fire you. Here's how we can avoid even getting down that road.
Absolutely. The dog's asking to be out now. 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can just think of all the times where I mean, like in education, this is what I've learned is that first of all, education draws to the codependent. And
Mm,
so you are looking around at a bunch of mostly women who really do rely on external validation and praise for any ounce of worth that they can feel about themselves. I was included in that. And not getting that because education is a field where you're never doing enough. Like it
yes.
doesn't matter who your boss is either. Like I've had several, the message is always, but you know what I mean? And so I wish I had understood that because my time there would have been much less painful. But in hindsight, I know that it was just because I wasn't getting the one thing that could make me feel like I was worthy, even just as an individual. Praise and how far understanding the people around you goes because I'm a totally different person now, but at the time I didn't know how to connect with people authentically. I didn't know how to share. Like I had no idea that I was so emotionally unavailable because I could trauma dump with the best of them. I mean, I could tell you my whole life story in a very disconnected way. You know, like I really wasn't connected to those stories. But to sit down and say, when you did that, this is what came up for me. And I was really kind of struggling. Oh, fuck that. To be vulnerable with people, let
Yeah.
them know I had weak spots. Even my closest friends only a couple of them would I actually confront, and they didn't understand what a gift that was. Like, that was symbolic of like
Right.
how important our friendship was to me, because what they didn't know is the alternative is I'm going to do the slow goodbye.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to pull back and then I'm cutting you off. Like, that's how it is. And so my fundamental message in life now is please get to know yourself really well, because when you do, you can start to recognize the patterns of behavior in others. So now when people talk, I can hear their shame. I can hear the narrative circling around that we're all walking around with. I can hear
Yes.
when you're feeling invisible. I can hear when you're feeling like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders with nobody else possibly to help you, which isn't typically true. We're just really scared of asking for help.
Right.
And as a manager, it's really important to know which of your employees will come to you when they need something. Most of us won't, truly,
Right.
because we are afraid that we're going to be seen as incompetent,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the other lies we tell ourselves if we have to ask for help. I don't even fucking want to ask
Absolutely.
my husband for help. So, like, let alone a manager.
Right. Right. But it's all this stuff that we are carrying from childhood that you don't realize that you're carrying until you do some deeper looking. And I think that's something too that people are really uncomfortable doing, that shadow work, because I don't want to dig back
Yeah.
into 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 5 years ago to talk about the things that really hurt me and why I am now the way I am. But
Oh,
it
yeah,
it
because
does
we're
all build up.
terrified.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, but it builds up, and like now you are who you are because of these things that happened. Well, maybe TMI, but I'm gonna be
Never.
emotionally available for you today.
Yeah, you're
But
never TMI here.
when I was a child, and I had been sexually abused by a friend of the family. It was a teenager, but it was still something that happened, and I had forgotten about it. I blocked it out until I was about 40. And then it just
Mm.
kind of came back out of nowhere because I think I was in a place where I could process it. But it explained, and I had always kind of known that it had happened, but I couldn't remember specifics because I just couldn't, because I'd blocked it. And so when I could, I was like, oh man. But it explained so much of how I did like a lot of trying to not be seen. I did a lot of like trying to keep myself small and out of the way, and just to whatever, just
Yeah,
to be
don't
out
draw
of
attention
people's.
to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't want to draw any attention, didn't want anyone to see me. And even like I wanted to earn and achieve things, but at the same time, I didn't want anyone to like really see that I was achieving it, because then I was like, okay, too much attention, like turn it away.
Yeah,
And
so uncomfortable with praise, right?
yes, but like
Yeah.
at the same time, I was yearning it. Like I wanted to earn it, but then I was like, okay, just a little bit of praise, not too much. Like keep it rational. And
Mhm.
but it was just something where I had developed all these protective measures throughout life to keep people at a distance and keep myself at a distance that I didn't really realize I was doing for 30 something years, and that's like, it's
Yeah.
terrible that but it is like you carry all these things from childhood that you're taught or that you learn or that you do as a safety measure that impact how you build relationships, how you show up at things, like what you bring to your job, to your family, to your kids. It's it's fascinating, and it's terrifying to have to go back and dig through and remember those things sometimes, but I am so much better for having done it, and
Right.
it's great now, but I mean, it's still, and it makes people uncomfortable. That's the thing too, is having to talk about it. People are like, "Oh, I don't know how to respond to that. So I'm going to give some weird platitudes, or I'm just going to
Yeah.
like brush over it." Or
Here's a euphemism. Would you like
right.
that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
'cause I'm uncomfortable with something that was discomfort, for you at one point, and it's like, "No, no, like I'm
Mhm.
okay now, but it's just but here's a lesson learned," type of thing. And it's hard to share those things because people don't respond well to them because of
You're
their
so
own
right.
insecurities and their own limiting beliefs. And so that's something that
Yes.
you have to do your growing and your healing, but you also have to be mindful of who is around you and where they are in their journey, because if they're not comfortable yet with that, it will it might not will it might make you stifle yours, because you're like, oh, this is not acceptable. I shouldn't talk about
Right.
this. I shouldn't do this because everyone around me thinks that I'm being too much. And it's like, no, 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 they're just not there yet, and that's okay.
Right. Well, that's one of the narratives that we, specifically women, but I see this in men too, that we carry around as I'm too much and not enough,
Yes,
all at the
at the
same
same
time.
time.
Yeah. But also something that I really like preach to people is being emotionally available doesn't mean that you are going to be safe to share with just anyone,
Right.
because that's very untrue. I have spoken out very loudly about the limited support I have ever received in moments like that where I was very vulnerable, because I had surrounded myself with very emotionally unavailable people. So even now, I have very few people that I can name two that I can go and just be exactly who the fuck I am, unleash everything and not get shit back to me. But
Yeah.
what I've learned is we will dismiss those things in others to dismiss our own discomfort with it. So even like, especially with our kids, that was a place that I really noticed myself being dismissive. Is I'm it's overwhelming if I can't fix it. Like, I don't know how to sit with you in your discomfort. You know
Right.
what I mean? So that was something I really had to work through, was like, I gotta get over my discomfort to sit with them in theirs. And as I noticed it, like with my oldest son, because I was so dismissive to him, like I noticed him being really dismissive of everyone, but specifically his little sister. And I'm always like, yeah, I know, but like, you just don't like it because there's nothing you can do about it. You could just be quiet and just listen.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that with her specifically. Like, the faster I would just lean into, oh my God, you're kidding. I'm sorry. She's 10 and a half, but I'd be like, oh my God, you're kidding. I'm so sorry. God, are you serious? Sometimes I don't give a shit. That's the truth. Sometimes I don't, because every little thing is dramatic to her. But like,
Right.
she feels seen and she feels supported. And how important is that as people who really walk around feeling so invisible all the time? But also, to your point about shadow work being so uncomfortable, so a book that was recommended by a podcast guest in the first month of this podcast changed my fucking life. And it's called The Finding Peace Workbook. And two things about this book is what shifted everything for me. Shame. He broke shame down into different archetypes, so that, because each archetype kind of has a different narrative attached to it. So like the politician is the one that makes you hide everything to present a certain image, but also achieve. And then there's other archetypes. And when I could understand the narratives attached to those, it would come up and I'd be like, oh, wait, that's shame. And it's this archetype. Now I can externalize it and understand that was never my fucking voice. That was my bitch ass grandma. You know what I mean? Like that. Like I don't have to listen to that shit. And it's not true. See, when it was me telling it to myself, it had to be true, right?
Right.
But then when I was like, not inside my head, you are outside of me. I mean, there's this whole process for externalization of these voices, but it was really, really impactful for me. And then the other part was really, really, really understanding my wounding. He breaks everything down into the 5 basic attachment wounds. That was so helpful for me, because I mean, you've seen the list of emotions. Like you can Google it right now, like list of feelings, and it's like fucking hundreds.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to waste time trying to figure out what it is I'm feeling, because it's almost irrelevant. Which wound did it hit? That, like, I can just be like, oh, because that, I know what that feels like. I know fucking what betrayal feels like. I know what abandonment feels like. I know what neglect feels like. So when that feeling happens, I can just be like, oh shit, that brought up some neglect for me, which happens. What I learned is every day I feel betrayed and every day I feel neglected. It comes up at least once every single day. But how empowering that was for me, because no one's doing that shit to me. It just came up. It was a trigger, and that's what it triggered. And then I could be like, oh wow, that's interesting. I can get curious about it. But the reason I was telling you all of that was to get to a place where I said, with my therapy clients, I have them all buy that book. And I say, it's $25. I swear to you, I will reimburse you out of my own pocket if it's not as impactful for you as it was for me. And every one of them will message me when they get the book in, they start going through, and they say, I've already cried. And I say, yeah, I get that. But was it anywhere near the pain of the things we've done to ourselves to try not to feel that feeling for 3 minutes? You know what I mean? And it's crazy, because the fear really is that it's going to hurt as bad as it did the very first time we felt it. That's the
Yes.
fear. And it fucking doesn't. It just doesn't. But like, we will go to the ends of the earth to avoid it if we possibly can. But I mean, all the things that we're doing to avoid it just perpetuate it over and over and over.
Yes. Yeah. That's so important, is just to feel it. Sit with it.
Mhm.
It's uncomfortable, but just feel it. Let yourself do it, and then let it go. And it's so much easier in the long run than trying to avoid it, because it's going to come up at some point, and at some point you are going to feel it again. So just embrace it and be like, you know
Oh,
what, this is
sure.
this
Yeah.
feeling, and whew, I don't love it, but when I look at the bigger picture, like, I'm safe, I'm okay, like, things are actually fine, and I can let it go. And you're like, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
But
and it
yeah,
never
it's
is.
so
It never
important.
is as bad as we were so fucking afraid it was going to be. And then the other side to that is that it's not natural to learn how to experience a feeling. I had to work really hard to get out of my head and into my heart space.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I remember being like, oh, wait. I said, if my back hurts and my shoulders hurt and I'm pissed and I'm in my head, there's something I'm not feeling. Okay, great. How do I feel? Shit. Like, it was this whole like getting through the process. I couldn't even identify when I needed to feel. I literally had to do a body check and I'd be like, damn, that hurts so bad, And
Yeah.
so I'd be driving down the road and be like, oh, okay, we need to ground. And so I'd do the grounding and whatever. And I'm like, okay, I'm there. What is this? Oh, well, that was easy. Okay. And people think that when you say release it, that you blow that shit in the wind and it never comes back. No, baby, it's
No.
probably going to come back in an hour. Like,
Yeah, it'll come back, but you
when you're
just let it
first.
go for now. Like, you don't carry it, you
Yes.
don't dwell on it. And the thinking is something too. Like, we will overthink it and it doesn't go away because you're thinking it, but you're still not experiencing it. So thinking about it is so different than actually feeling it. So you're like, why do I feel
Mhm.
betrayed? And it's like, okay, great. Now you know the root of it, but you still haven't felt it enough to say, like, whew, okay, like that.
Ooh, that
Your little
felt
shivers,
betrayal.
and then like let it go for now and be like, you know what? Okay, I felt it, and now I can feel comfortable again. And then again, it might come back up, but at least for now, like, you have felt it. So the next time it gets easier and easier and easier and shorter because you're doing that
Right.
work. Yeah.
Right. And when people just learn like how to get out of their head for a minute, like, because damn, I just didn't know. I didn't understand that what I was doing all of those years was intellectualizing everything.
Yes.
And I just, that's one of the reasons I did not go see a therapist myself, even in the worst of times, because I was like always a therapist's golden child. I was getting the same shit from them as I was being the golden child in my family, which was nobody has to worry about her.
Yes.
And I made sure that nobody had to worry about me. And when I would meet with a therapist, they'd be like, "Oh, well, you know the answers, you know the tricks, you know the da da da." And I'm like, for sure. But I had no idea how to experience a feeling. I mean, literally, I had to work so hard to learn how to get out of my head. And wow, the freedom that brought me, because my head was a very ugly place to be. And now if I
Yeah.
catch myself like overthinking, I'm like, okay, it's probably hormones. Like, I heard something on TikTok, I think the other day, that was like, baby, you don't have to entertain it all. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to overanalyze everything. Because I used to be like, oh my God, why am I overthinking? What are these thoughts trying to tell me? Blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Now I'm like, that's not the way we discover things anymore. I
Mhm.
refuse. We are not overthinking. I will do shadow work. I will do whatever. And I don't mind transporting back in time to think about anything, but I'm not going to sit around like spinning a wheel that never stops just to try to
Yes.
understand something better.
Yes. I'm learning too, like, that's ego versus your intuition. So feeling it really just, that's the intuition part, and that's what helps you to heal. Ego is to think about it because it wants to keep you safe. So it wants to keep you from
Yeah.
feeling it, because that's what it's just a very, very basic level of just trying to keep you safe, but it doesn't work in the long scheme, the long run of things. You have to feel it. You have to let yourself do it. So I've had to do a lot of work to get out of my head too. Cause same thing. I'm like, I don't need to go see a therapist because I've already thought it out. Like, so wow, like, I've already got through it and I've talked through it and I'm
Yeah.
good. And it's like, yeah, but like, did you, did you? And so I've had to learn how to feel and get into the heart space. And it's been a journey, but it's been so helpful. It's been like a really, it's kind of empowering couple of years. I started this a couple years ago, and it's just been really helpful to process everything that like I hadn't processed my entire life.
Yes. I thought I had. I
Yeah.
really did. But so like around the time I started in education, I had found the holistic psychologist on Instagram. And it was my first real gateway into understanding trauma outside of the scope of veterans. Because honest to God, up to that point, I hadn't learned a lot about trauma,
Mm-hmm.
which is weird, but I just feel like there wasn't a focus on that. And so she, and maybe she did say more than this, but it was all a foreign language to me. But it felt like all the things I was learning about from her was just about your nervous system and regulation that. But like, you can't regulate your nervous system if you're driving yourself fucking crazy in your brain. Like I had no emotional regulation at all. I could probably go back and look and see if I just was missing the mark completely and not understanding. But the limited information that I had at my fingertips at that time did help. It did help some, but fuck, not nearly enough. And then just learning how to regulate and all, like I have a whole toolbox now, like if this, then it's just changed everything for me. But like I said before, the most impactful was understanding myself so well that I can understand others, because I've learned we're not any fucking different.
No.
We are all doing the same shit. It will look different sometimes. It really will.
Yes.
And our wounding was created differently a lot of times. But like even these people who are like, yeah, I really don't have trauma. I'm like, okay. Well,
Yeah.
let me talk to you about this. If you have a boomer parent, you have trauma. I'm sorry, but it's true. And we do not have to hate your parents. We don't have to talk shit about
Right.
them. We don't have to anything. But what we do have to do is hold space for the fact that none of your fucking emotional needs were met as a child, and period.
Yeah.
There is nothing different than that. That is the
Yes.
truth. Boomers didn't know how to be emotionally available for their children, even the ones that were trying really hard to do that.
Well, they
You
didn't
know?
have that either. They
No.
didn't grow up with it. So that's something too. We talk about, talk shit about your parents. Like you don't vilify them, because they also did the best that they could with what they had. And so that's what they grew up with. That's what they knew. So even if they tried to do differently, like they didn't have the tools or resources. It definitely wasn't talked about back then. And
Right.
so
Well, and the
they
silent
did.
generation was 1,000 times worse. So
Yes.
I know what
Yes.
the boomers went through because I was raised by both. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And so they did the best they could. But now what I try to talk about is like their ceiling is now like our floor. Like so yeah, they did the best they could, but now that that's where then take that and now that's your floor and you keep doing better. But you can't, and now Greer said there's some very special circumstances where they were abusive and other things. And so yes,
Oh,
that is
sure,
bad.
yeah.
But if they just couldn't meet your needs, like they did the best they
Right.
could. And so like don't
Right.
don't go to therapy and be like, my parents were the worst. They weren't, but like they just didn't meet you where you needed to be met. And so now that you know that, how do you meet you where you need to be met? And how do you meet your children or your employees if you're a manager? Because that's something too, like you are spending hours and hours and hours with these people, and they do look to you as some type of leadership position, whether it's not necessarily parental, but sometimes if they're young enough, they
Oh,
might.
listen, honey. If they're unhealed, their boss is very much mirroring the relationship with their
That's true.
parents.
That's true. Yeah. And I was thinking about like from an age standpoint, like they might not, but sometimes they do, especially if you have this really, really new younger generation coming in and they see things very differently. And so they are now demanding what we should
Oh,
have been
baby.
demanding. And so like
I'm
now you have to
saying,
make
yes.
those concessions and try to meet them where they want to be met. And that's what's changing. And that's why I really want to help, because I'm like, look, what used to be and what we've always done is not going to work anymore. Like I know it's always worked, but it's not going to stay that way. And if you don't adapt,
Yeah.
you're not going to make it as a leader, because they don't have time for your intolerance and for your bullshit.
No, I remember whenever Gen Z first kind of had a presence, we'll say, right? Like when they got to be teenagers, and I have two Gen Z children. And at first I was like, well, that ain't gonna work because blah 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 blah. And then now my oldest is 22 and I'm like, damn, y'all really changed the landscape of the workplace, didn't you? I fucking am so proud of them. Like, because they said,
Yes.
I don't give a fuck. That's you're not doing
Yeah.
it to me. So, like,
Yeah.
they will quit their job. They will tell you you're a
No
shit
2-week
boss.
notice. Yeah.
But
They're
they
just like,
will-
look, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yes!
Today's my last day. And you're like,
We
oh,
would never burn bridges. Like Gen X, we were raised by them fucking people who were like, you get up at 6, you make your bed every day. You know what I mean? Like all these things. And we're like, yeah, as long as you follow the system, you will reach success. And Gen Z's like, no.
But also, it's not true. We were
It's
fed
not
lies
true.
because
Yes.
I'm a millennial, and you know, like my whole thing was the reason I started this business was I was working somewhere for 11 years, 10, 11 years, and I had gotten laid off, and I was performing well, doing all the right things, and I got laid off, and I had invested 25% of my life there, and
Yeah.
I was crushed. Like that was my identity, and I'm like,
11
look,
years. Yeah.
yeah, because I was like 40 at the time, so I'd been there over 10 years, so it was like 25% of my life. And so I had invested so much energy and time and my personality and my personal life into this job, and I did all the things and I loved that job. And I still got laid off. And I'm like, so you can do all the things and work all the hours and give all the whatever, and you can still like that be let go. So
Yeah.
like it does not. You know, we got this lie of like if you do all the right things, everything's gonna work out. And I was like, you know, I did, I made it up. I was a VP and it was wonderful and I loved it and I loved my team. And then at the end of the day, I still walked out without a job. And I
Yeah.
also lost all the relationships that I had there. I talked to maybe one or two of the folks still from there, and that was a huge loss for me too. And I think
Oh,
part of that
God,
was the
yes.
whole like the spiritual awakening, like the people that are
Yeah.
supposed to be with you now, like you end up losing people that are no longer aligned with who you become.
I went through the
That was
same
still a
thing. Yeah.
really hard process to lose my
Yes.
job,
Feel your
lose my
human
identity,
self
lose
had
my
lots of
friends.
loss.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I was like, oh man, I'm starting everything from scratch. And I was like,
Mhm.
how do I figure out what I do from here? And so I went to another job and it was a terrible culture fit. And I was just miserable. I was only there for about a few months. And I was like, look, old me would have said, like, stick it out.
Stick
We'll
it
do it.
out.
You
Mhm.
just keep pushing forward. And I was like, no, but new me doesn't want to invest that kind of time and energy anymore in my mental health because I am miserable and it's impacting my marriage, it's impacting my personal life. And I was like, so I'm gonna give him my note. I gave him a month notice. I'm still one of those people. So I was a director, so I gave a long notice to help them get somebody backfilled. And then I was like, I'm done. And I took a sabbatical and I volunteered and did a lot of stuff with animals. And then I was like, man, I really miss coaching and developing people because I loved that. I was passionate about that. And I was like, let me do coaching instead. So that's kind of how I fell into this. But it came
Love
from a lot of
that.
loss and a lot of learning of like what, you know, the ideal perfect image was that we were sold doesn't exist. And so you kind of have
Right.
to make it. And I love that this younger generation is like, that sounds fake. So let me do what I want to do. And I'm like, good for you.
Right.
Good for you.
Truly, they have empowered us. Like they
Yeah.
really have because I even like my son's girlfriends, you know, his women friends, like I'm like, yeah, bad bitch. Like, you know, some of the like I used to be super modest. Like I probably wouldn't wear tank tops like this even. Just there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. And just hearing the new rhetoric from those girls where it's like, bitch, you do what you want. You show what you want. You do la 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 la. And I'm like, well, we shall try that. And then my daughter, she's made me grow and evolve as a human because I knew I didn't want to give her any of the shit I was given. She
Yes. Yeah.
loves to wear like the booty shorts and the shit like that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna die because that was just so foreign to me. It's not how I ever chose to dress because
Yes.
I'm sure some of it was I was also sexually abused as a child. And so I know that some of that was from that, but I just didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Like I was like, eh. But like I started being like, you know what? She's comfortable. Like, I'm gonna try
Yeah.
my whole uniform over the summer. I bought like 7 different colors of these shorts from Amazon that were only like $12 a piece. And they're that like
Mhm.
really soft material, but they're very cute. New pair every day. And that was it. Like they are very short. They go right up to your ass cheek and they're so comfortable. And I don't give a fuck who thinks about it, what they think about it, nothing. And that
Mhm.
was truly all it was I didn't like the way my body looked. And so I
Yes.
wanted to cover it all up. But now I'm like, oh, it's my body. and I
Yeah.
get to decide how I feel about it. And so if I'm having a bad body image day, I'm like, oh, you're a bad bitch. Don't even matter. Get the fuck out of here. Like, today's just the day you need to not be looking in the mirror then, honey. Like, just get out. Like, what are you doing?
Mhm.
Because the way you view yourself can change drastically depending on a lot of things that are happening in your brain. So I've just
Yes.
been so thankful for all these like younger people coming up, because they are empowering me as a 40, almost 45-year-old. Like,
Yeah.
I am like, hell yes. I'm gonna drink some of that Kool-Aid, because
Yes. I
we
love
did
it.
the opposite earlier in life, where we modeled after the older generations. And for
Mhm.
what, like you said, no one's retiring at their job anymore. And that's what we were sold, because that's what they were sold, that you go and you work somewhere 40, 50 years, and then you
Yes.
get your beautiful retirement gift of this like nice office chair or whatever, and a severance and your retirement pay, and everyone shows up to wish you well on your journey. No, no,
Very
nobody's
rarely.
that's not the way companies are even structured anymore. They will fire you
No.
before you can ever get to that level, because they don't want to pay you what you're worth at
Well,
that
that's
level.
something too. If they're good, it's easier for you as an individual. And this is something that they don't tell you. So I'm going to try to tell some of the younger folks here too, is that you will have better luck hopping jobs every couple years to get a raise than you will if you just stay and climb the ladder, because you might get X percent, for every role that you climb up. But if you go somewhere else, like you can get double that as a new hire. And
Yep.
they're bringing in people to your role, and you get promoted and someone else comes in and they're going to make more than you just because they came in externally. And that's
Yep.
something that I don't understand why we do it this way. It's backwards, but we cap our internals and we want them to grow and climb, but we cap them. But we're going to bring in externals who have no experience, no understanding of the business at a higher rate just because they're external. So you will have better success in your career to move every couple years to find something different, get different exposure, different experience, and you're going to make more money. And that's something that I, out of loyalty, was like, I'm going to stay where I'm at and keep climbing the ladder here because I love it, and I'm here and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid and it's wonderful. And I don't regret it by any means, but I will say that I could have made more money had I just left somewhere along the line and gone somewhere else and maybe even come back. I could have probably
Yeah,
doubled my
that would
salary at
have
some
done
point.
better to leave and come back to that role. Yes,
Yes,
you're so
than to
right.
just stay in
Yeah.
there from entry level to where I was. Like I did not climb financially the same way I would have if I had gone somewhere else. And so that's something that people don't talk about because I don't want you to know that. But it's true.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and then, you know, I'm like a baby Gen X. I'm literally the last few months of that generation, and then like I call myself an elder millennial. But I feel like a lot of us in that space were perpetuating the same things, but like that won't look good on a resume. Like that
Yes.
was a thought. And that I
Yes.
remember telling my oldest that, and now I'm like, you're right, baby, just quit your job. I don't fucking care. What if you're miserable, don't do it, whatever. But I remember kind of switching my philosophy around that when I was in education, because listen, baby, I'm gonna be really honest. The first day as a teacher, I was like, I made a very fucking big mistake, and this is not good for me in any way, shape, or form. But my pride and ego kept me there. So I did teaching for 3 years. Then I switched to a school counselor, much better, for 4. But I was getting so agitated with people, like the adults, that I was like, fuck
Yes.
this, fuck you. It was a bad thing. But I stayed at the first school for 2 years. Then I went to another school and I said, fuck this. And it was the year that we all went home like on quarantine for COVID. So I
Yes.
didn't even finish a whole year, and I left. That's when I switched to school counselor, went to one school as a school counselor for 2 years. And then the last school I was at for 2 years, because I was like, no, I don't give a shit how I look on a resume. Like, I'm not staying in a place I hate. And I just kept moving. I was like, okay, I think
Yeah.
this might just be education for me. I think I hate this. I think I really hate this for so
You're like,
many
this
reasons.
whole thing is
You know
not
what
for
I
me.
mean? Yeah. I was like, this isn't, I think I'm done. Yeah. And it was really the adults and them saying that the adults in the building didn't matter. And
Oh,
then also the chaos. It, as a
yeah.
very unhealed person, my nervous system was very dysregulated, and the chaos in the buildings, just what I'm talking about, that internal fury
Yeah.
going to go through. And it was just too much for me. But the kids were great. I could not put up with the fucking lack of respect, the lack of care about my feelings as a human, and I didn't even know what my feelings as a human were, because I was pretty emotionally unavailable. But like, they were there and I was struggling, and that's all I knew is like, I'm struggling so bad. My support system, who are my little besties, can't give me shit. Like, that was really isolating, because it got to where, like, nobody wanted to hear how bad I wanted to die anymore. So I had to quit saying that. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I reached burnout in every fucking area of life and was just like, okay, it's
Yeah.
time to make a change here. This isn't really working out so much. We're going to have to do something different. And now I do. But if I had been so scared and just like stayed on that course all because I wanted my resume to look good, like, I can't even imagine what those 7 years would have looked like, even worse for me, if I had done that.
Right. Yeah, and that it is. You're right. It is that whole like the resume. It doesn't look good on a resume, and it's something I think it's another outdated thing that we've been
Mm-hmm.
told that we're all still kind of perpetuating. Because actually, I've heard. I kind of worked in the technology sector and whatnot, and so I feel like what I've been hearing is that it actually looks better for you to move every 2, maybe 3 years to a new job than it is to stay somewhere for 10 plus years because things are changing constantly. And if
Right.
you're staying at one company, that they're kind of doing the same thing and they might get some new tools
Uh-huh.
along the way. But if you go somewhere else, like you're learning new processes, new tools, new things. And so it actually looks a little bit better in certain fields to jump every couple of years because it looks like you're getting new exposure and new experiences versus just kind
And
of
you're
staying
gonna
stagnant at one
bring
place.
innovation. Yeah, you're
Hmm.
not like, they're like, well, what am I gonna like? We'll have to teach you everything. You're not really gonna bring anything to this role. Like, we're gonna
Hmm.
have to get you out of this mindset of this other place. And like, my husband even talks about that in his hiring, is like, well, we don't really want them to have experience in our field because we don't like the way people teach this
You have to
sucks.
unlearn some habits. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we'd rather you learn our way of doing things. And like, even whenever I was full time in hospice, we would run up against that. If somebody had a lot of hospice experience, getting them into the culture of what we were doing, very difficult, because they're like, well, that's not the way I do it.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Like, well, that's not what I learned before. And it's like, great, but you're not there anymore. Like now you're here. And
Yeah.
so we're going to show
These
you
things jobs
this.
on purpose, right? Okay.
Yeah. Unless what you're doing now, again, please share with me. And if what you're doing is better, like I would love to implement it. But if it's just because
Right.
it's out of habit, then like you need to get on board with how we're doing things here. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's fascinating. Just
It
fascinating how
really
our
is, isn't it?
mindsets are just the way they are.
Yeah. Well, and if you don't have anyone around you cultivating a growth mindset, you are going to be fixed. It's going to
Hmm.
be what you see is what you get. But that's why it's so important to have managers that are, I'm going to use the word, enlightened.
Yeah. Well, my thing too, I worked in a contact center for a long time, and that's pretty much a churn and burn type of environment. Typically, people come in, they don't love being in a contact center, and I get that. But we actually created it where people enjoyed it. But still, I very much encouraged my folks to promote out because we were kind of like a farm team almost for the rest of the business, and other departments would take folks from our team for their different roles, and I loved that. And I had some people talk about how, as leaders, they didn't want their star employees to go somewhere else because they're my star employees and I want to keep them. And I'm like, that's terrible. Like that, if they're not super happy here, or if they're already exceeding the expectations, like have them grow and learn and go do
Yeah.
something else. So as a leader, like your job is to support their growth into something new and not just to keep them captive forever to make you look good. Like you should want them to grow. And it's like being a parent. Like I want you to fledge the nest at some point. I want you to
Yeah.
go and spread your wings. And so that's something for me. I was like, I love promoting people to something different. And it's just a different mindset. And I think that's what I've seen what has not worked and I've seen what does work. And I really loved creating that type of culture and supporting employees that way. And that's what I really want to encourage and build going forward. Cause I think we just need a new kind of shift of how we do leadership. And that's something I'm super passionate about. And even if I'm not still in corporate, like I want to help people that are in corporate
Absolutely.
because I'm like, that just helps your mental health and just the society in general. Because if you're not hating your job and feeling suicidal, like you're going to go home and be happier with your family. You're going to go out into society and not be mean to the person behind the counter. Like you're
Right.
just going to be a nicer human. So like, why
Yes.
not want to cultivate kindness? I don't know. That's been my whole like motivator.
Yes. Yeah. I'm on the same exact page with you, because you can have the very best work home balance, but you're still putting a lot of yourself into whatever your work is.
Hmm.
And if you can do that in a way that honors who you are and helps you grow in any area that needs growth and feel good about what you're doing, how you're doing it, who is instructing you to do it, who you report to. If all of those things are positive, you are in a much better position to even build resilience to the things that are happening in your personal life. You know, I mean, that's
Yes.
the whole goal here, is to live a life that you're in love with. So even if
Yes.
you're not self-employed, you can do that. You can be in a workplace that empowers you to be exactly who you are, to tap into what your natural gifts are and cultivate those, you know, and
Yes.
embody those. So I
Yeah,
love that this is
absolutely.
what you're doing, man.
Thank you. Thank you. It's new. I started this in November. So I said I didn't want to go back to
Amazing.
corporate, but I was like, I want to do this. How do I do it? And I saw a thing for coaching and I was like, sold. Let's do that.
Hell yeah. I'm trying to talk one of my friends into it. Like, I've been for months, been like, you've done very well in this sector. And let me tell you, now you could just go help like other people thrive and get to do that in the most authentic way, because she's always worked in government and really
Mm,
has to show up, she feels, as an inauthentic version of herself. There's just a lot she can't say. You know what I
right.
mean? And
Yes.
so I was like, just imagine getting to be exactly who you are and showing people like how they get to be who they are and use their gifts the way that you have. Like, she's so talented. She's so smart, you know? And I love watching people. The evolution that you have to go through in any entrepreneur space is kind of
Yes.
wild. Like, the getting over imposter syndrome, getting over any fears. I mean, I'm not saying I'm completely over all of them, but like each day I step a little more into this power and a little more into the spotlight that like my little heart has always wanted, you know, but you know, you ain't gonna catch me making a video with me talking a lot right now, because like, well, first of all, none of them have ever been like widely received, but you know, that's algorithm shit and whatever. But I haven't found exactly what I want to say yet. You know, like, I do this and I love this, but like in terms of picking up a fucking phone and be like, hi guys, meh, 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 meh," I'm trying, but it hasn't landed yet. So I'll post the clips and whatever, but I'm I think this is how we change the world. You know, like, whatever
Yes.
space you're finding yourself in, maybe it's not trying to be in the spotlight like me, but like coaching people on how to have a good life. Like, fuck, dude, this is how we change the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they said like all the light workers were all waking up in 2025. Like it's a big time because the world, I feel like the world needs it. Like this is a time where it's like we
Yes.
need this positivity and we need a better balance of things. And so I don't know if the world is 100% ready for it yet, but I feel like it will be soon because it's going to get tired of how things are going and it's going to want to rebel and say, how do we do opposite? And it's like, here we are. We've been ready for you. We're waiting. And
Yeah,
I'm ready to do
absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. I'm excited for you. And I would love to stay connected. If there's any way that we could ever collaborate in the future, I would be open to that. So,
Yes, please. Yeah, and
yeah,
I do a podcast too, and I would love to have you on if you are open to it, because I'd love
I would
to
love to.
get different voices and just get, kind of cross-pollination, get folks in front of different audiences and spread the message.
Yeah, because you are the first coach that I've met in this space.
Oh, yeah?
I was a little nervous actually, because I was like, well, what the fuck are we going to talk about? Because I don't really, like, I was like, well, we don't usually talk about like managers. You know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
then immediately, I don't know, your energy's so good. I was like, oh, we're besties. Okay, we're good. I
That
don't
that's
usually get
that's the
nervous, but
thing.
this time I did. I was
Oh,
like,
well, I'm glad that you will feel better about it now. But yeah, I think that's something too. People see it and they're like, "Oh, it's gonna be stiff and leadership," and it's like, no, no, like just I called my company, it's my business, Authentic Foundations, because I want to build a foundation of strong skills, but by you being your authentic self. So like you should be able to come into work and be who you are and still do the things the way that you should. They give you your feedback and stuff, but you can do it in a way that is comfortable and unique to you so that you're not trying to fit yourself into this predefined mold. And so it's all about being authentic. And that's like, this is who I am at work. This is who I was when I was in corporate. This is who I am outside when I'm hiking with my dogs. Like, I'm just me. And I'm hoping people will resonate with that. And if they don't, it's because we're not aligned, and that's okay. But
yeah,
it's meant to help the folks that, feel like, okay, like this is someone I can connect with and feel comfortable with. So I'm glad that you did and that you weren't like, oh, this is gonna be an uptight bitch, because I'm typically not.
No, no. I was worried that you would be uptight. On today's intro for today's episode, because I post 3 times a week, I said I feel like in a few of my podcast, I feel connected to almost everyone who comes. Like, I know that you were meant for me if you sign up. Like,
I
period.
did
'Cause I
hear
feel
that,
that
actually. I
from the
did hear that
universe.
on yours.
And I was like, I feel like I'm starting to meet people from my other lives that we have soul contracts together. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like more of them are being brought to me now. Like, I'm sure there weren't that many, but like there's been a few people that I've met that I've been like, "Oh, you've helped me before." You know, or
That's
I've
cool.
helped you, or we are very connected. And just like really feeling that all the time now. It's very different, but like I had to get to a place where I understood how not to spiritually bypass, because like I signed up for a human experience. I am
Yes.
first and foremost a fucking human. But I don't know if you saw this on Instagram, but I finally did the fucking trend of the met my younger self for coffee.
Yes.
And the only reason I did it is because the original author was kind of crying on TikTok because it's this huge trend and nobody's
Yeah.
crediting her book. And so I
Oh.
was like, because no one knows where the fuck it came from. They thought somebody just started a TikTok trend. And it was her, a book of poems that hasn't even been released, but she published, she did the thing and published
Um,
that one. And so I was like, well, fuck that. Okay, I finally feel moved to do it. I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna credit her. So I did one on Instagram and I did it on TikTok. But what I said, because I was like, well, what am I gonna say about my younger self? And I was like, you know what? I have heard my higher self talking to me. That's who the voice was. Like anytime that I credited God or my dead mom or whatever, like I I'm learning to give myself the credit. Like that Snoop Dogg, I want
yeah.
to thank me. Like that's
Yes.
where I'm getting. Anytime I go, thank you to the universe, I will stop and I'll say, while I am so grateful for you, I'm fucking grateful for me. I did it. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
have overcome and I have done the things I signed up to do, and I'm going to continue to do those things. And I'm leaning in and I'm learning and I'm growing and I'm open and receptive. That's me. I've made choices to be that way because I certainly was not that a year ago.
I love that.
So, that's why I was like, no, I want to say my younger self recognized that that's who's been leading her like all this time, because I believe that. I now that I recognize my voice, I can get all those shit narratives from my grandma out of my head.
Yeah.
I know what my voice sounds like now. And abso-fucking-lutely my highest self has been leading me this whole time.
Yeah. I mean, because you're all tied, like you are the universe, like God,
Yes.
source, spirit, whatever you want to call it, like that, you are part of that. So yes, it is you doing that work and some things guiding you along the way, but you're the one that has to like do, they can point you in the direction. It's like lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So like you can lead you to these things, but if you're not taking the steps and the divine action, it's going to keep bringing
Free
it to you
will.
until you finally do. Like
Mhm.
it'll keep showing up. And that's the thing
Oh,
too. Like
baby,
your
don't I
lessons
know
will
it.
show up over and over and over
I
until
know
you
it.
do them or learn them. And so if you're seeing yourself in the same patterns, like what is it that you're supposed to be learning that you're not learning from this? And that was something too
Yes.
where I'm like, hey, you, fancy seeing you here again. I think I need to do something with that.
Have you ever just been in the moment of crisis and been like, fuck, I'm not even going to be emotional. I'm just going to try to figure out what the fuck I'm supposed to learn from this because I'm so fucking tired of this bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
I
I'm like,
can't tell
again?
you how many times I've been like, what? Please show me a different way because I don't know what you're trying to teach me and I'm ready to learn. You know
Clearly
what's
I'm not
crazy?
learning it. Yeah.
I'll do that and I'll go get in the shower. I'm so connected to water. So like I'll go
Yeah.
get in the shower and I'll do the thing and there's the aha moment. And I'm like, thank you. Please don't ever give me this lesson again. Please don't do
Yes.
this again because I'm fucking done with it.
Yes, and that has been a huge of like, what am I supposed to learn from this? So instead of being like, oh, poor me, I'm like, okay, clearly I'm not getting the hint. So like, what is it that I'm supposed to be taking from this today? how do I move forward from this more effectively? And so the universe will keep giving you those nudges. I think that's the layoff thing that happened for me was I was supposed to take a step out and I wasn't going to. And it was like we've been trying gently to tell you, but now you're going to be
Uh-huh.
laid off. And then I went to another job and
Uh-huh.
it's like, now this culture is terrible. You're not supposed to be here either. And I was like, okay, fair enough. I'm going to take a sabbatical. I'm going to figure it out. And so I was like, I'm not supposed to be in corporate anymore. So
That is
yeah, it'll
exactly
keep
what happened
bringing
for
it to you until you learn what you're supposed to learn or do what you should be doing. And
Uh-huh.
so if you're feeling a Groundhog Day event, you gotta,
You gotta
what
stop
is
and
it that I'm
share.
not doing correctly that I should have been doing all along?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said this on the podcast a few times, but like one of the horoscopes I got in the time of like some real transformation was I needed to address the dissatisfaction in my life. And I was like, you're implying that I am the reason. So let me go and check that. And so I was just like, yeah, I kind of am the center of all this bullshit. And then 2 weeks later, I got one that said, hey, check in on how you respond when people don't meet your expectations. And I was like, well, fuck, that was the crux of every issue I've ever had in my life was me not responding well when somebody didn't meet my expectations. Fuck. And then, you get into the whole spiritual evolution of like, what are expectations? Like, should I have any for anyone? Blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
That's yeah, you could go down a long path with that. 'Cause you're like, should I just wing everything and just be surprised when anything happens and just roll with it? Yeah,
That's kind of where I am. I really am in a surrender and flow because, I got real fucking tired of people calling me strong. And I was like, yeah, I guess some people wouldn't have gotten through the challenges that I have faced in the way that I would have or the way that I did. But like, I don't want to be strong anymore.
yeah,
I want to be soft and I want to be held and nurtured and loved. And I want to give those things to myself. I don't want to walk around in this masculine energy anymore. So pretty much I kind of just stay in that feminine flow at all times, except for
I
like
love it.
get shit done. Like
Yeah,
during the like, okay, I need to power through some shit. I'll get into that. Like, this is what we do. This is how we do it energy. But any other time I've learned one of my roles here is to learn to listen to my intuition and act on my
yes,
intuition. And so
yes.
that's tricky sometimes. But yeah, I kind of come off as that. Well, I don't just come off. I can be chaotic, I can be calamity, I can be whatever. And the things around that used to bring me so much shame about myself, I fucking love them now. I'm like, yep, I'm going to show up late. I'm going to, like there's a lot of things about me. Whereas like, I was like, I will never be late. I'm not like that late. Like, for instance, I'm not afraid to run over a minute and then be a minute late with the next client. Shit like that, where I'm constantly just like, I'm sorry, or let me let my dog out. I don't need to
Yeah,
put up any appearances. I'm just being me in every space. And that's why I call myself a non-traditional counselor. Because when I meet a client, I'm like, look, I'm not going to talk to you any different than I talk to a podcast guest or my family or my friends. Like, you're going to get exactly who I am. If I'm not meant for you, don't hesitate to say it. But
yeah,
like, because I'm not for everybody, and I am for a very specific type of person. So if we're not a match, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. Don't stay, because I need this too, and I get
yeah,
as much as you do, and I'm not gonna get shit out of it. And I am determined to not live a life where I'm not getting shit out of my interactions. So like,
yes.
if you're just gonna sit there and be like, "Man, baby, you want me to help you find a new therapist? Because this is not let's."
Yeah, it's not me, it's you. It's super important though. I've always been in a masculine energy too, and just like a get it done kind of person. And so I'm trying really hard, especially as an entrepreneur, because it feels so much like you need to be masculine all the time. But like I'm trying to be in that feminine flow and let things like be receptive and let things happen and come to me. And I'm not good at that. Because I'm really patient with like other people, but I'm not patient with things for myself. And I'm like, okay, I did all these things. Like, why is this not happening yet? And so I'm
Yeah,
trying to surrender, and which is scary when you're not used to surrendering.
it's
So I'm
so
trying to let it
scary.
go
It
and I'm
really
trying to
is.
wait and let things happen and flow, and it's a new process for me. But I agree, and I feel like we're pretty aligned in that aspect where I'm here to learn how to let go, but also to then help share the message with others. So trying to
Absolutely. Well, you
figure it
may
all out.
consider Pod Match too, because
Yeah.
if this goes well, Well, and I don't know how, but like so I signed up for both profiles to be a guest and to get people on my show. But you get like some sort of commission after the interview is actually complete. I think you
Oh,
get like the lowest you get is $25.
that's not bad at all.
No, I mean shit, I'm not getting shit now and I'm trying really hard to get my podcast monetized. And that's been the other thing, is really like nailing down what it is I want to do. Like I learned I don't really want to build up my practice. I don't want to do more one-on-one. It
Yeah.
takes a lot out of me. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Oh,
And
yeah.
especially like right now I work 2 evenings a week. I don't like that. I love my clients no matter what time I see them, but I don't want to work evenings. So I'm not going to like build that part of my business up. I just don't want to.
Yeah.
But what I do want is to make money from my podcast. I want to do more public speaking. I want to do more. I would love to be doing more professional developments with people to talk about this type of shit, like about change you, and that will change the workplace, things like that. But I had to get really clear on what I didn't want, and it took me a little while because, girl, at first I was like, I started a little fucking online store. I was like, oh, do you want to buy my shitty designs? Like any way to make money, because I was scared. I was like, I just left my job. And now, like, just this week, I've had the craziest breakthroughs with understanding. Like, I had this girl, my ears just started ringing.
Oh, nice.
So I had this girl on earlier this week. She does tarot and she's real mystic, right? And listen, sometimes like I'll be like, can I get free advice while you're on the show? And so I was like, hey, okay, so she's real big into manifesting. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing wrong with manifesting? Like, because I need money bad. What am I doing?
That's it.
Right?
You're saying I need. That's
Yeah.
that's part of it.
Yeah. And she was like, so she was talking to me about like building a foundation of gratitude. And I was like, and I felt like I had, but fast forward, I hang up and I'm like, okay, gratitude. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm doing a little too much forward thinking, because whenever a gift does come in, I am so grateful, but my immediate thought is like, oh, yay, it's happening and more is going to come and blah, blah. And guess what? Every fucking time it almost immediately goes to shit. Okay. Because I'll be like, yeah, and then this is going to happen. And this is going to, like, I have that scheduled and this, all the scheduling goes away. People cancel, events get canceled, whatever. Right. So I was like, okay, maybe that's the thing. So then the next day I had this guy, so when I talked to her, my car payment was 19 days late, and I had told them I would pay it like a few days before. And I was like really stressed the whole time I was talking to her. I am feeling this stress about that. So we have this conversation and I hang up and I was like, okay, yeah, you know what? You're exactly right. No more yesterday, no more tomorrow. Gratitude in this exact moment, like truly understanding in this moment on this day, all my needs are met. And I have to be really fucking grateful for that.
Yeah.
No more worrying about tomorrow or yesterday. Like, and it's so easy to say that. And I would have thought I understood it until that moment. It was a shift in the way everything felt. Right then, I get a phone call from the bank. And I said, I'm so sorry that I wasn't able. I know I told you I'd pay that. Like, I'm really sorry. They're like, hey, that's not why we're calling. Like, do you need help? Like, what's going on? Well, I don't want to tell them that I fucking don't have that job anymore because I don't want them to come take my car away. I love my car.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I just had a little decrease in income and things are stressful right now. And they said, you have a skip payment available. Would you like to utilize that? And I said, yes, I would. Thank you so much. Which kind of changed everything, because then the money I had in my account could go for other bills that were also late. And like, because my husband kind of takes care of most of the like household stuff, but this is all that, like, my student loan, my car payment, my fucking credit cards, like these are my things. And so I was just really like the shame and the guilt and all the things, but I was like, okay, so right now all my needs are fucking met. And I'm going to sit in this gratitude. And I know it was true because I could feel all that love, the love that you feel when you're sitting in that space. And everything has just kind of changed since then. And like, even today I was driving and I'm like, no. We do not worry about yesterday. We do not worry about tomorrow. Everything is good right now. And I'm going to celebrate that. But I think the fear was, if I'm not worrying, I'm not doing enough and I'm not outputting enough. And like,
Yeah.
I had this thing because like I'm determined to not go pick up any more side jobs. Like I'm not wasting my time. Yes, I can make money, but I'm not going to give energy that then can't be put into the things that I'm building. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's so fucking stressful sometimes. But I'm like really happy and really content, and I refuse to lean into stress right now. I'm just everything I need is met right now. And I have to believe tomorrow will be the same. And I don't have to know how that's going to happen. I just know,
It will
you
happen.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you with that. I not having an income since I quit my job, and things are good. Like I had savings and stuff, but it's still like I would like to make more money.
Mhm.
And so I've been the manifesting part was trying not to say the words want or need anymore, and more of
Yeah.
just um grateful for like all the blessings and things I have, the abundance I have, and those that are on their way. And so I always try to assume like that it's already happening, it's coming. So I try to say stuff like that. So focusing on the present, like all of my needs are met. Love my house, love computer, love that I was able to take a shower with our
Yeah.
utilities, and, feed our pets and stuff like that. And just thank you for those things and for all the blessings that are on their way. And I just it's coming. I know it's coming.
Uh-huh.
It's on its way. And so I just kind
And
of
I
keep
have
reminding
always
myself that.
known, like it's coming. Like I've always known, but I think that I was leaning in too much into the it's coming. Why isn't it
Why isn't it
coming
here
yet?
yet?
Instead of
Yes.
here, but I think too that's why I made a choice to be very open and honest on this show about the financial part too, because when people start binging this podcast at some point and they go back, I want them to fucking hear that so that they can know they're going to be fine too,
Yeah.
because I, I want people to celebrate with me when I do reach that point, and I want people to see me in them and see that this is possible for anyone. It is not without its struggles. It is not. But the life I fucking have now, there is no comparison to
And
my
I'm so much happier than I was. And I thought I was happy before. And then I left and I was like, I didn't realize how burned out I was and how maybe not happy I was in certain things. I'm like, I love what I'm doing. Like, and I want to keep doing that. But
Yeah.
but I think that's something that's been really kind of surprising is that when I first started doing the coaching, people made it sound like it was so easy. These entrepreneurs, they're like, "Oh, I'm
Mhm.
making six figures. Like, I'm making, 10K a
Uh-huh.
month. I'm doing that." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, like, yeah, I'll be doing that soon too." Bullshit. Total bullshit. And so I don't know how long
Well,
they've been
that's their
doing what they're
job is to
doing.
tell you on how easy it is. Buy my
Well,
course.
right. Let me show you how to do it. And you're like, "Great, I'll do this too." And I'm like, "I'm not spending all this money on these things that because how do I know for sure one that you are doing that? And two, like how long have you been doing this? So maybe you are now, but like has it been because of 5 years of work? Like it's been a couple months for me. So like I'm like I need to pay my dues as far as just putting in the time. But yeah, I came in I think completely ignorant to how complicated it was going to be because it just seemed
Yeah.
like everyone I was connected with or following, they're like, "Oh, it's so easy, and I'm doing this." And don't your
Yeah.
marketing strategy
But
could just
you
be
know
this, like,
what?
just post, be yourself, and then and your customers will flow to you. And I was like, I am being myself. Where are my customers?
Baby, let me tell you something. Someone let a little secret slip one time about, the way you can present things that aren't untrue, but I was like, I fucking knew you were lying. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and I'm not saying that about everybody, but I do know that
it's
verbiage
enough.
is used on purpose. And I'm not even going to get into some of the shady shit I've come across. But why I'm telling you that is because I have purchased so many fucking resources. I just got into a thing the other day where like someone sent me this and I ended up here, and then I was like, oh shit, this is actually really valuable information. So like I have a fuck ton of resources I'm happy to share with anybody. Like I'm gonna do a call with the guy that I was telling you about a couple days ago. He's like, hey, I'm starting a podcast. Would you be willing to like kind of talk me through that? And I was like, hell yeah. I want to be a resource to anybody because I know how lonely this can be. So if there's anything I can do to help you, I am happy to do that.
I appreciate it, and vice versa. If there's something I can do, I'm happy to help as well. I'm obviously pretty new to it, but still happy to help where I can. And that's something like when I'm putting myself out there, I'm like, when I put out courses, like they're real courses, and they're not like here's how you sell and make more, which I know is like
Yeah.
really popular right now. But I'm like, here's how you be a better manager, and people are like, I don't want that.
Uh-huh.
That sounds boring. And I'm like, but it's actually helpful. And so, but I want when people see
Yeah.
my stuff to realize like it's real. I'm not just trying to sell it for the sake of selling it. Like and that's something I'm like, it's really authentic. Like I'm being genuine in what I'm putting out there. And so hopefully at some point people will realize that and not just feel like I'm trying to scam them like a lot of people are out there trying to do.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I haven't met lots of beautiful, wonderful people who are like us, who just are
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
I want to make a living doing what I love, which is helping other people in this way. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, not at all.
The only thing I find wrong is when you start to do shady shit to get your money. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I mean, I'll just be honest. The way you can help me is just to share my shit when you see it on Instagram or Threads. All right. Well, thank you so much, man.
It was
This
lovely
was
to
so
meet you.
great.
Yeah, it was great to
Yeah.
meet you. And I
You
will talk.
too.
Happy Friday, happy Valentine's Day,
Oh,
and
yes,
I
you
will
too.
talk with you soon.
Okay. Have a great
Thanks.
day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Emotionally unavailable. Emotionally unavailable. Emotionally unavailable.